Hi, Upper Valley. Welcome to another episode of A Closer Look. I'm Donna Giroux, the Executive Director of CATV, and with me today is Kyle Fisher, the Executive Director at the Listen Community Center. Is that the correct name, Kyle?
It's Listen Community Services, and so we shortened that about 20 years ago from Lebanon and Service to Each Neighbor, which is what Listen stands for.
I didn't realize it was an acronym. I've been on your site a few times.
Yeah.
So Listen is an important community resource. You do so many things for the community. And I'd like for you, for the viewers who might only know you as a thrift store, I would love for you to tell us the different things that services that Listen provides to the community.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for giving me that opportunity. It is true that a lot of folks think of us as a thrift store. That's where I take my husband or wife's clothing when we no longer need it. But, and that's certainly the most visible side of Listen. So I do think it's important to get the word out to the community about what Listen is actually doing with the funds that we raise through our thrift stores and through private donations and grants. So we really look at ourselves as the safety net here in the Upper Valley. We serve both sides of the river, Vermont and New Hampshire, and we have a wide array of services. So two of the critical services that are particularly important right now are our community dinner program, which is 6 nights a week.
6 days, that's extraordinary. So 6 dinners, and it's been volunteer-based, but you're still serving those dinners, correct?
That's correct. So what we've done is, we had a number of community members who were feeling that they were particularly vulnerable. And we started to assess that internally in the organization to say, what could we do to keep the community safe and do our part? So what we decided to do was have some of our retail staff members shift over to cook community dinner every night. And that limits the traffic through the kitchen. It's a pretty small kitchen. And limits the number of hands in the kitchen every night in terms of the potential to spread anything. So we actually have a warehouse manager, Rob Broadwell, who is a former cook at Jesse's and Weathervane, and it couldn't have been a more opportunistic skill set to have on staff here to be able to shift in. So he's got a crew of folks that work with him every night now, Monday through Saturday, that are pumping out about 125 meals every night.
Wow. And that also keeps your staff employed then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was another great benefit of it.
So how are you affording to be able, I know that thrift store has been an important part in supporting these other services. So how is it that you're paying for the community dinners?
Yeah, great question. And thanks again for asking it. So, in our past, Listen's thrift stores have provided anywhere between 80 and 90% of our regular funding, with the rest of it coming from generous supporters in the community. So that is a huge hit to us not to have that revenue source turned on at the moment. So we've really been putting out an appeal to the community to help us get through this stretch and be able to continue to provide those critical services that we offer here at Listen. And it's been just really heartwarming to see how the community has responded in terms of funding Listen and ensuring that we're going to be there for our neighbors in need during this difficult time.
We have a wonderful community, or what?
Yeah, we sure do. I feel really proud to live here in the Upper Valley with how generous it is and how everyone takes care of each other. And I've had the fortune of traveling around the world, and I don't think that I've seen a better place in terms of people taking care of, or neighbors helping neighbors, if you will, which is also one of the founding slogans of Listen. So.
Oh, is it? That's interesting. So we haven't mentioned where the community dinners are. Which community? Because I know you serve many communities. So which one does community dinners?
So right now, all of our community dinners are being offered through our community dinner hall, which is at 42 Maple Street in White River Junction. It's right there on Route 4 as you're crossing between West Lebanon and Hartford. At the Bourne Center, where we also have our thrift store.
And if I'm a farmer and producing crops, is there some way that I could make a donation? I have too many eggs or whatever it is. How would I contact you?
Oh, of course. Well, to be honest, what happens most with a specific example that you mentioned there is that the organization Willing Hands here in the Upper Valley, which is absolutely fantastic, and they deliver weekly to approximately 60 different sites, including the Listen Dinners and the Listen Food Pantry. So
Really?
most of the farmers in the Upper Valley and the grocery stores are all connected into Willing Hands, and so they gather that food or glean from farms, and they bring it to resources like Listen to be able to provide into the community.
Okay, so beyond, I know you have a plethora of services. So beyond
Sure.
community dinners, you have food pantry. Tell us where the food pantry is and how can people make donations?
The food pantry is located right in downtown Lebanon. It's in that historic yellow house building at 60 Hanover Street in Lebanon, where, you know, our original thrift store was since the early 70s, that only recently closed a year and a half ago to move into the new Miracle Mile space. So we're actually in the process right now of taking a rather small food pantry and putting that into what was the former store here at the old Lebanon location. So we're pretty excited to see that come together. But we've also seen the need for that particular program really exploding, and not just recently. More or less over the last 3 years, we've seen triple-digit increases each of the last 3 years for the demand of food. So, you know, it's sad that that is the reality of the situation that we're living in and the context, but I am very proud that Listen's here and able to help families meet those needs. So the way that that program works right now is, you know, obviously we can't have folks come into the pantry. So what we do is we have it staffed with, again, a couple of retail volunteers who we're able to keep on the payroll and give them some work to do and shift responsibilities to meet other demands that are arising in the agency. But also we have volunteers that sign up to come in to work at the food pantry. And that's available without appointments to anybody who can get here. There's no service area requirements around our community dinners or our food pantry. If you can get there, we'll feed you.
Sure. So if somebody wanted to make donations, do you have like bins? I know when I go to Shaw's, there's a bin, but it's not a Listen bin. It's a food pantry bin. I mean, how do I make a donation, or is it easier just to make a check out?
Well, at the moment, we're asking people to only do checks because of the fact that, you know, the virus lives for a certain period of time on different things, and we're trying to limit the number of people touching things that are coming into the pantry, and then, you know, our volunteers are touching it and then providing it to folks. So anything that we can do to limit the number of people coming into contact with any sort of food is fantastic. So because of the fact that we can buy for bulk, and do it much cheaper, you know, than someone might be able to purchase for going to a local grocery store. We're asking people to do it that way. Listen is starting to experiment with food pantry deliveries. We've had a wide array of volunteers coming to Listen, and an organization that's a collective of nonprofits in the Upper Valley called Upper Valley Strong.
Yes.
That are providing drivers to do these types of things. So right now on Fridays, we are, people can call here to our office at 60 Hanover Street in Lebanon, the main program office, and sign up to receive a food pantry delivery.
And I know CATV, we have our donate button is, you can use on our website is you can use a credit card through PayPal or PayPal account to make a donation. That wasn't a shameless plug, I promise. I'm wondering, does Listen have the same opportunity so they don't have to make out a check and your staff doesn't have to touch it and the bank doesn't have to touch it?
Absolutely. So we have a donate function through Facebook, but primarily through our website that folks give. And that's been actually with this pandemic, we've seen a significant shift of people moving to online donations from checks in the mail. Is much easier on us in many different ways.
So all of us want to spend money purchasing, and instead of purchasing things on Amazon, perhaps you could get an employee to take a picture of each item, and when you sell it, sit it outside the door so that we can swing by and pick it up. It's not exactly the thrifter experience, but
yeah, one of the best things about the Listen store is the treasure hunt. That you come in, you never know what you're going to find, but if you check back in regularly enough, you usually find whatever it is that you're looking for. We've actually made a strategic decision not to do, not related to the COVID crisis, but before this, strategic decision not to do things on eBay and to try and sell that way, because we really believe that the items that are being generated and donated to Listen here in the Upper Valley are meant to stay in the Upper Valley.
Right.
And so we look at it in that way. But we also really like the fact that folks can come into our stores and be able to find, a priceless antiquity at a pretty reasonable price. If we were selling those on eBay, that opportunity wouldn't be there. And I think it would really take away from the experience of shopping at Listen, which I certainly don't want to do.
Kyle, I have purchased many an item at Listen. Anyone who works for a nonprofit, that's about the price range we can afford. But I've never had a priceless antiquity. I look forward to that day. Yeah.
And sometimes we have people donate priceless antiquities. Sometimes they don't mean to.
Yeah, that's it. So tell me about Heating Helpers.
So Heating Helpers is one of the programs that's been at Listen since our founding in 1972. And it's actually mostly fuel assistance and electrical assistance. So, in our history at Listen, that was about 90% fuel for a very long time. And in the last 5 years or so, it's shifted to be about 60% fuel, 40% electric. I don't know exactly what the causes of that are, but we are definitely seeing a lot of folks with high electric bills coming to Listen, and Listen is the resource that's keeping them from, being shut off. One of the nice things at the moment in this crisis is that utility companies are prohibited from shutting folks off. So that has been a bit of a reprieve for us to allow us to focus on some of the other critical programs that we offer here.
Right. It's just the last couple of weeks have been a tsunami of information, and it's been a fluid situation. Everything keeps changing. So the idea of not having to focus on that must be quite a relief. I know you also do housing helpers. Now, that's got to be a weird thing right now, being that people can't lose their housing. But what if they were in crisis in the middle of looking for housing when this first started? So I'm wondering, is that program still active?
It sure is. So we have a counselor here, Georgia, who runs that program and does all of the triaging with folks to ensure that they've tapped into all the different resources that are available in the community, and she helps steer them through this process. What Listen provides is a $500 grant that folks can apply for once every 5 years. That used to be a loan program that we offered here. And about 2 years ago, we decided that was really just, if you were coming to Listen to receive some rent assistance, setting you up with a loan was not the way to put you on a successful path again. So we're trying to really take a progressive approach to our programs here, and we decided to turn that into a grant program. We wrote letters to anyone that had received a loan from us in the past and told us that we were writing it off. So folks can use that $500 to catch up on rent, for the security deposit to get into an apartment for the first month's rent. There are so many costs that are associated with moving. So Listen cuts the check directly to the landlord or the mortgage company or whoever the vendor is in that situation.
So we happen to talk centrically about White River, but it looks to me like you have a huge range of towns from Springfield up north all the way to like Barnard. So in New Hampshire, do you happen to know what the towns are in New Hampshire that you cover and assist?
Yeah, so we, the main towns are obviously Lebanon, Hanover. I'm just reading off the list here. Lebanon, Hanover, Canaan, Enfield, Plainfield, Grantham, Springfield, Grafton, Orange, Dorchester, Lyme, and Orford.
So that's quite an extensive list on the New Hampshire side, and it looked to me like there's an equal number of communities on the Vermont side. Can you share those with me?
Sure. So, starting in the north, we go as far north as Fairleigh and West Fairleigh. We also cover Stratford, Thetford, Royalton, Sharon, Norwich, Barnard, Pomfret, Hartford, Woodstock, Heartland, and all of the towns and villages incorporated into each one of those, like White River and Wilder.
Right, the five Hartford.
Right. Yeah, Queechee is in there too.
Yeah. That's an amazing responsibility. I appreciate that you are doing all this hard work. I also, I think we mentioned most of your services, but you also do holiday baskets. Which holiday are we talking about?
In this situation, we're talking about Christmas. So this is another program that Listen has run for a long time, and it's evolved through the years. So what happens now is Listen is primarily a matchmaker. So we take organizations and donors in the community and match them up with low-income families in need. And the items that come through this process are for children and as well as for seniors. And so what happens is each person that signs up for a holiday basket at Listen receives 5 new items of clothing, and those are of their choice. So they have a meeting with one of our counselors here who coordinates that program, and they provide them with a list of their sizes and, do they need boots or winter coat or sweatpants or whatever it is. And then the donors go and purchase those products, and, we facilitate the collection of those items and the delivery of them in the community.
The logistics are always the hard part, right?
Yeah. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we also give each family that receives a holiday basket a $50 gift card for a grocery store to help with food around the holidays and children being home, etc.
That's excellent. And can I recommend that possibly you put more socks in this year, because apparently people are cutting up their socks to make COVID masks. So I think we're going to all be short on socks by the end of the by Christmas. So tell me, and our thrift stores, I look forward to the day where you can reopen those and possibly let in limited number of people or however you're going to transition it, because I find your thrift stores to be thrifty, and usually there's a wonderful amount of donations. If you're not receiving new donations, I guess, will you start receiving them when and if you open the thrift stores?
Absolutely. So we are prepared to be feeling like we're drinking out of a fire hose when all the businesses are allowed to turn back on here, because we're going to have our ordinary flow of donations that would be coming into Listen since March 17th, when we made the decision to close our stores, that come in at a pretty terrific pace. And then we're going to have compiled on top of that spring cleaning is usually our biggest time of the year. And then on top of that, we're going to have the fact that so many people are at home right now. And what are they doing? They're cleaning out closets and basements and preparing a load of items for Listen. So we're in daily discussions with our retail team to figure out how we're going to be able to handle that inflow, which we think is going to be pretty tremendous. But we certainly need it, because that, like I said, is our funding mechanism, and we have a lot of lost time to make up for.
That's great. Is there anything else that you want to share with the community? Obviously, this is a community show, and I will not only air it on CATV, but I'll distribute it to the other public access stations that cover any of those towns that Listen is part of. Is there anything you want to say to the community?
Well, one of the programs that we didn't mention yet is our clothing voucher program. So
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so one of the great things that we do is we offer a clothing and hard goods voucher to folks in need of clothing for their families, and folks can qualify for one of those every 3 months. And essentially, it means that if you aren't able to afford the discounted prices that we're already offering at Listen, that everybody deserves the dignity of having some nice clothing. So we offer those every 3 months that kind of correlate with the seasons, and folks can come in, and oftentimes they're getting outfitted their children for new sizes as they're continuing to grow, and for the back to school season, and then the cold weather, et cetera. So that's a program that we're proud of. And we also have a furniture voucher program, which usually goes hand in hand with our housing helper vouchers. So when folks are moving into a new place, particularly if they've been homeless or they've lost a lot of resources through an eviction, or maybe it's their first place, they often need some core essential items to outfit their house. And so that's a program that we also offer. We have what we call a furniture pantry at our warehouse at the Miracle Mile location, that folks are able to come in and shop for free for those key items. So we're particularly proud of that. And one of the other things that we're offering right now, which is a critical element of respite for Upper Valley families, is our summer camp scholarship program. So every year we send just under 300 children from low-income families here in the Upper Valley to a summer camp of their choice, be it a gymnastics camp, a day camp of any sort, equestrian camp, an overnight camp. We have we work with almost every camp in the Upper Valley to be able to provide that. And again, all of that funding comes from generous donors in our community and our thrift stores that we offer.
So the plethora of services, I want to remind people, make that little pile of donatables for Listen, because that's how they make their money. And because they can't open the thrift stores right now, it's very important that we help support all the services that Listen provides. So I'm hoping you'll, as you're pressing buttons to buy things on Amazon, press a few buttons to make some donations. I'm sure Listen would appreciate it. And, so anything else you wanted to tell the community or ask the community?
I think that we've pretty much covered it. The community has been very generous to Listen through this crisis as we've had to shut down our stores, and they've been very generous to us forever, since our founding. So I just want to thank the Upper Valley and all of those folks who are tuning in or listening through your YouTube channel and all the other variety of ways that you get this show out there, for the tremendous amount of support that they've given to our organization. Because like I said earlier, Listen is the safety net here in the Upper Valley for so many local families when times get tough or they can no longer bridge the gap in their finances. I really pride this organization on being there for folks to bridge the gaps when that occurs, and allow everyone to live a great life here in the Upper Valley. So thank you. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to get the word out today. I really appreciate it.
Kyle, anytime you want to come back, we'd love to chat with you. And what you just mentioned, the goal of living a good life in the Upper Valley, I think is the goal for all of us as a community. So we're going to say farewell for now. We appreciate you watching CATV, and see you on the flip side. Bye, guys.